And a good evening to everyone tonight. How are we doing? Ryan in Sacktown with you. We're doing night court with the dog. It's okay. He gets a little loud this time of night. He's excited for the night court edition and the Jerry Reynolds Tuesday edition of the King's Court. Hey, we're brought to you by Bennett's Westside Grill in Rockland, located in the Blue Oaks Town Center. Do me a favor, go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. You can check out all 3 of their locations. Also, their incredible specials. You can make reservations, buy gift cards. One of my favorites, actually, the weekend brunch. In fact, let me stop talking and just show you really quick.
The biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew.
Brunch for dinner, anyone? Looks great. Huge thanks to Bennett's for sponsoring tonight's show again. Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Normally we are on in the afternoons, but if you didn't catch it already, make sure you go back and check out Grant and Sean Salisbury earlier today. Awesome show breaking down week 1 of the NFL. Grant and I, we will be back tomorrow night together, reunited for the first time this week at 8 o'clock. Grant will be on at 5 o'clock. Doing an open forum show, and then 2 o'clock as normal, the King's Court, Monday through Friday. Tuesdays are a little bit weird because Sean and Grant, that's okay. We work around it. Got a great interview for you, and I mean an excellent interview with Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, a good friend. He comes on every Tuesday on this show, and for whatever reason, and we pre-taped it because of Grant and Sean, but for whatever reason, I feel like this was one of the more fun, probably best conversations I've had with him on this show for numerous reasons. We hit out some of the recent Kings news, but we talk about Peja Stojaković, and we dive in to his FIBA Hall of Fame induction that's going to be coming up later this week. And, we hit some really cool stuff that I think will be first time that you're hearing some of it. Certainly the first time I heard some of it. And we have some fun, as we always do. Going to be taking your comments in the chat. I don't have the call link up tonight, but I will be chatting with you as we watch the interview here in just a couple minutes. I do want to give you a couple thoughts, though, really quick, because we have not gathered since the 49ers knocked off the Jets. I'm going to give you the cliff notes. Jordan Mason, amazing game. Yesterday, I said, if I'm the Niners, I am not playing Christian McCaffrey. They didn't. But as great as Jordan Mason was, to me, they are not the story of the game. The story of the game was the offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers. Trent Williams looked incredible for somebody that was not in camp. More than that, Dominic Pooney. Are you kidding me? For a rookie, this kid was getting to the second level. He was springing blocks. And for as well as the Niners ran the ball, 401 total offensive yards, 180 on the ground. The Niners were relatively penalty free, and a lot of the holding calls came against the receivers of the Niners. So we're going to talk more about that. I also have thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and also the Jets. I really thought last night's game for the Jets offensively was more about protecting, safeguarding Aaron Rodgers than it was about letting the offense loose. I mean, think about how many pitches you saw in lieu of handoffs. Think about the short dropbacks. I get the quick throws. Makes sense. But then when you're down double digits, you're pounding the ball, trying to establish the run game in the third quarter. It was a really wacky game plan. They didn't have the ball very much. The Niners did a great job with controlling possession time. That's a Kyle Shanahan thing. We know it. Enough about football. We are all here for one thing, and that is the one and only Jerry Reynolds. Here is our conversation from earlier today. You don't want to miss it. I'm going to be in the chat with you, so put your questions, thoughts in there, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Here we go. Tuesdays are for days off from football, for tacos, but on the King's Court, they are for Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, welcome in this week. How you doing today?
Doing great. Great to be with you again. Obviously, it's just a wonderful sports time, with NFL starting and college football starting. I've really gotten into the WNBA again.
Sure.
Some really excitement there. And, of course, all that means is the NBA is getting close to camp. So it's just, hey, it's great. It's great for everybody, but especially old retired people who have nothing in their lives.
Well, I would say you got a little more than nothing, but there's
a little more.
There's no shortage of things to watch. Your Chiefs got to win week one.
They're awfully good, and and the Niners are terrific. I mean, if they stay healthy, you could see a repeat of those two teams in the Super Bowl. I think it's way too soon because obviously injuries change everything, but it certainly seems to be the most talented. I think the Niners are the most talented team, but I think the Chiefs got Mahomes, and that's nobody else does.
That's a problem that nobody can solve. If you got Mahomes, you are a step ahead of everybody in the league, hands down.
Yeah, it's a little bit like with Brady in his prime with the Patriots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just was going to put them in a position to have a chance to win every year, and that's where it is. But I think could be the Niners, and I wouldn't be honestly, I would not be unhappy to see the Niners win. I really enjoy them. I think they're maybe the most fun team to watch, and like I said, just a marvelous talent, and Coach Shanahan, really deserves a championship here, really. And they probably got about a 2-year window here. So
yeah, but until Brock Purdy gets that cash that hits his bank account, they have got between now and then to get that championship. Did you get a chance to see any of Tom Brady's debut this week?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought the criticism was a little over the top. He's no different than any kind of rookie going into it. But I thought for a first game, he's quite good. He's not Greg Olsen,
right?
But I'd put him almost with anybody else, and you can see. I just think a guy like that, he'll get better and more comfortable. And he's Tom Brady. When he says something, it has a little extra meaning to it. It's kind of like in the coaches shows and pre and post game shows that if it's Nick Saban or Bill Belichick, it's a little more.
Yeah, they speak, you listen.
Yeah.
So no doubt about it. I thought Kevin Burkhardt did an excellent job of helping Tom through in
Mhm.
those little moments where there might have been a stumble here, stumble there. But if you went in expecting filet mignon, then you had wrong expectations. He's got to
Yeah,
learn. You've done it for a number of years. It takes time.
it takes time. I mean, I definitely, it was probably a couple of years before I felt comfortable. And if I, and then I was lucky to work some with Gary Gerald when I
Hmm.
started, and then of course Grant. So I had really two pros. And so, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, to actually really feel comfortable in what you're doing, there's a process there. It just doesn't happen automatically.
It's a great point. Well, as you said a few minutes ago, we are inching closer and closer to the NBA season starting. We got a couple of Kings notes and NBA notes to discuss. The Kings seem to have finalized their coaching staff. Most significant of the moves, Jay Triano is now going to be the associate head coach for the Kings. Seems like the right move, Jerry.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, he's obviously been a head coach, had top spots with Olympics and different things. Obviously, I don't know him well. I have talked to him once or twice briefly, but everybody would say he's as sharp as anybody in the league. I mean, it's one of those things. His head coaching stints were with teams that weren't very good, and when you don't have talent, then you don't win games, and then you move on to something else. That's
Yeah.
that's the way it works. But yeah, I think that's exactly the right move.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And on the player side, news coming out, it looks like Jay Crowder's going to come in and do some open gym and get a look with the guys sometime this week. No idea whether the Kings will bring him in for training camp or not, but I don't think it hurts bringing Jay in for a workout.
No, no, not at all. I like that idea. Now, whether he's got enough juice left to be of value, that's what they've got to decide. Because I mean, I think when you bring an older veteran in, as let's say if you were to sign him, you better have minutes for him. Because
Sure.
if you don't, and I mean, and that was a little bit of Jay's problems in Milwaukee, that that maybe the things got a little testy around, and so I always said that's the only thing I'd say is be you better figure out. It's like, okay, if we're going to bring him on, don't bring him on to be your 14th guy. He
Great point.
he better have a role.
Yeah, 34 years old as we sit today, and the Kings, to some, are a little bit thin at that position. So, not maybe a bad thing, but it's a great point. You got to have some minutes for him, but we will see how that all shakes out. The NBA making a change. They're going to expand officiating reviews to out of bounds plays. We saw this earlier last season, Jerry, where Malik Monk was clearly fouled and pushed out of bounds in the New York Knicks game, and the ball went after him. The Knicks challenge at a pivotal time, and they get the ball back. The NBA officials now can look to see if a foul caused the ball to go out of bounds.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's what fans want and deserve. I mean, if you're going to go through all this process, uh, try to get the game as accurate as you can. It's almost, as we've said many times, it's an impossible game to officiate. So there's going to be misses. So clean up some of the misses. That's really what it's about. And no, I think this is a real step in the right direction.
I think it's a crucial change because so many times, and you know the game much better than I do, but from my times playing, my times watching, there's times officials do not call fouls, but they give you the ball. It's almost like there's this unwritten rule, but now with replay implemented, that was up in the air. And I had talked to some G League officials about it last year. So, really good job by them getting that into place. Do you think, or I should say, what do you think maybe the next rule in terms of challenges should be that the NBA looks at?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, uh, I think any goaltend should be challenged by because it's impossible to call by the guys
Yeah.
on the court. I mean, and I think the league itself back in New York, they've got better looks at really almost automatically challenge that. But that to me and certainly with sometimes it is challenged by the coaches, but a lot of times it isn't. When like I say, it's impossible to be sure, and so I'd like to see that challenge. But the other kind of stuff, the rules that I don't like, or it's not so much the rules I don't like it's that they're not called. If you're going to have an interrupted dribble as a violation, then call it. Now we know they don't call it, so get rid of it.
Yep.
Or dislodging the defender. That's a rule. It's a foul every time, whether the guy's 5'2" and 100 pounds, not pushed backwards by a 300-pounder. If he's got position, and according to the rule, if he's dislodged just due to strength, it should be a foul. Well, it's never called.
Right.
So let's get rid of it. If you're not going to call it, and I'm not saying they should, I'm just saying, okay,
yeah,
just okay. If you're not going to call it, it becomes a joke to see guys, and every player does it. The first move with the ball is basically where they carry the ball the first
no doubt,
first move.
Yep.
And it's the kind of thing that as old timers would remember, you couldn't do that. It would be automatically called. But I think I kind of liked it, the fact, because otherwise it'd be tough to score.
Certainly. I love that you're saying this, because the rules you're talking about go towards one thing, and it's consistency. If you could just get a little bit more consistency, and I think the refs do a very good job. They have a tough job in a fast game, but I think it's those little inconsistencies at important times that matter. And we're not even talking about the sports gambling aspects that come into it with prop bets and lines, etc.
Yeah, that's another issue that's probably going to play out some ugly ways eventually.
Yes, well, we saw it last year with Jonte Porter. That was a bad situation for the league.
Yeah.
Very bad.
But glad the league, was on top of it, and I think they will be. But of course, I don't gamble, but I'm just not in favor of really allowing so much stuff in the arenas and things.
Yeah.
Just it could lead to fans, overreacting or something, because the players themselves, they're busy, just trying to win the game, or they don't care if they win by 7 or 12,
Exactly.
But if people have got something on the line or somebody's stats, it takes on a different value, and I don't. Sometimes that can be a little scary.
Yeah, and even between fans, if there's a fan in the same row as you that has the bet opposite of you, go through any of the social media sites right now, Jerry, and there's no shortage of fan fights in football, basketball, and many of those seem to be fueled by alcohol, etc. But you throw gambling into that, now you're talking about money. People, that's a reason to go. That's a universal reason to go.
Yeah, it always has been, and it always will be.
Exactly.
And then the fact you're losing a bet and the guy next to you is winning, that might get you perked up a little bit.
No doubt, no doubt. So we do have some really cool news that I don't know a lot of people are talking about, but one of the greats here in Sacramento, Peja Stojaković, about ready to be inducted into the FIBA Hall of Fame class of 2024, going in with Reggie Miller, most notably. Jerry, you got to see Peja's entire career.
Well, he definitely is deserving. I always remember when he was drafted, he was considered the top player in Europe, a young guy. And I think he was about 18 then, much like Luka.
Yeah.
And he stayed over an extra year because he was coming off a broken leg and wanted to come over when he was, close to completely healthy. But always remember the first time just watched him in a workout with Peja. He was in Chicago and had a special workout with Peja and some other guys. And Stojaković. But anyway, the thing that struck me, I remember watching him. He never missed any shots. He just never missed any shots. And guys were walking out there saying, "Man, that guy's 6'9", and he just don't miss shots."
Yeah.
And it's like, that probably gives him a good chance to succeed. And so that was kind of the start of it. But I mean, Peja, following his whole career, I think he's a much better basketball player than a lot of times he got credit for. He was a very good defender, above
Yes.
average defender, and didn't rebound a lot, but rebounded enough for his position, and like I say, was good with the ball and great without it. Absolutely great without it. And of course, with Weber and Devon. But yeah, just I think, sadly, the back cost him a couple of good years. No doubt about that. But and I'll say this for him: he was one of the 3 or 4 guys that did his work, came in early, stayed late. He put in time, and there's that'd probably be my criticism of Vlade or Webb or Bibby. They didn't always do that, but
Sure.
but Peja and Bobby Jackson and Doug Christie, I mean, they were there early and they were there late, and so anyway, but so that's credit to Peja, very deserving of the FIBA honor because he was the best player in Europe at a very young age.
He's had a huge impact on Sacramento, both on the court and off the court. He's been around the team, doing many things, front office, on the court, helping player development at times. 27th in the NBA right now in 3-pointers. But it's so funny that you brought up his shot because I want to get technical with you. You know the game so well. When you look at Peja's shot, and that's what everybody remembers him for, I'm going to bring up his shot line, Jerry. And for those watching that don't know what shot line is, that is your dominant hand that you are shooting the ball with. Most times, your shot line is coming off of that same side of your body, your dominant hip.
Right.
Many times, Peja's would swing around on most of his shots.
Yeah, Peja brought it across.
Right.
And the reason, I'm pretty sure the reason he did, and I've seen it before, his dominant eye wasn't his right eye. Basically a shooter will find it, will try to line up with his dominant eye. And so that's I'm sure that's probably why he did it. And everybody has a dominant eye.
Sure.
But I say in general, if you're right-handed, it will be your right eye. So that's I've had guys in college in different levels, and that's where they now most of them really never really learned how not just to use the dominant eye, but to really have the technique, repetition to where it was
right.
Where they didn't really get the good technique. They'd shoot across themselves.
That's the biggest thing. That's what you would. Yep.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And he pretty much was able to really, if you didn't really look for it, it almost looked like he was, just like any great shooter shooting off of his strong eye because, wrinkle in the wrist, elbow under the ball.
Right.
But he would just bring it up a little different. It was kind of unique, no question.
And the other thing, and kind of like your friend Larry Bird, his elbow many times would face the hoop instead of facing the floor.
Yeah, in other words, like say, you're always taught to kind of have hair, but then, but the key is do it every time.
Yes.
And so, with Peja or Bird, a little unique, and a lot of the great shooters have been, but the one thing, it's exactly the same every time. Whether it's a jump shot or a set shot or a free throw, it's the same stroke. And that's the one, I think, consistent thing with great shooters. Curry's maybe a great example of that, although he's just perfect technique like you would think.
Textbook.
Yeah, textbook. But yeah, that's and the thing about Peja, part of the thing too is he was better going to his left than he was to his right, partly because of that. And that, of course, was an advantage because most people assume, boy, he's right-handed, so we'll and it's amazing how
it opened him up.
I'm sure he was scouted, but just as a basketball player, you go out there instinctively, you're playing the right hand.
That's right. And many times you're taught the sweep move, and he basically had the sweep move in every shot.
Every shot.
Yeah,
every shot. That's a great point.
So it's incredible stuff. And also, I just thought his instincts for the game, you mentioned his defense. He was always in the right spot. His help defense, I remember that a lot. And then also good passer. He had great passers around him, as you mentioned, but very underrated passer.
Very underrated. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, had the team not had Vlade and Webb, or later Brad Miller, I mean, they could have run a lot of stuff through Peja, and he could have been very effective, as kind of controlling the offense, because he's an excellent passer. But he wasn't quite as good as those guys, and they didn't need to do it.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to take you back. I'm going to play something for you, and I want to get, and you give us your thoughts initially, but I want to get in your head now that you've had time to digest it and really get an understanding of how special you thought this play was. You're going to know what it is when you hear it.
And Stojaković had Jackson. Oh, what a pass! Boy, what a pass by Peja Stojaković.
Peja trying to get control. He takes a quick look. He knows who's ahead. Behind the back, right on the money. Bobby Jackson for the finish. Yes, Pistol Pete lives. His name is Peja Stojaković.
What a call there. Good job.
Yeah, I always remember that. I mean, that was an amazing, because, he was going up the floor, running, and just really is about a 40-foot behind the back pass right on the numbers to Bobby Jackson. Yeah, it's one of those things. He's a good passer, but that was like, where'd that come from? That was J. Will Maravich caliber pass there.
And just as you said, he was headed up court. He stopped his body motion on a dime to make that pass. Incredible.
That was incredible. I mean, which there again shows you there was more game to him. I was going to say that was one of the things. He blended some of his skills in, because they weren't needed as much, because he had guys, a bunch of great passers. I mean, Christie was terrific too. So, but yeah, Peja was a surprising athlete too. I mean, he's a lot more lively and athletic than people thought. He's a little bit thickish looking, I think, but I mean, he one of the parts of athleticism I've always said is underrated is stamina. A lot of guys can fly around for 20 minutes, and then by the end of the game,
coach,
are getting beat. And I learned that as a college coach. I always remember I had a guy, Footsie Walker, played in the
Walker,
but I had him in junior college and in the 4-year level, and he was terrific. But a lot of guys could play with him for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he couldn't dominate, but he'd always tell me, he said, "That's okay. Sooner or later, I'll get him," and because he'd just wear him out.
Right.
And he would. The guys that could play even with him in the first half had no chance in the second. And I would say stamina is, kind of underrated. I mean, the greatest example was the great John Havlicek, who just simply, just could run all day.
Energizer bunny.
Yeah, and just wear guys out, and so it's a, stamina part of it. Fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Yeah, and you got to be able to get the minutes too. You can keep yourself in shape, but coach has got to play you the minutes to let that stamina come into a factor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point too. I mean, I've always said too, it's like with the player, people say, guys shouldn't play more than 32 minutes or something like that. It's like, well, it's kind of like pitchers. If you train them to pitch 5 innings, they'll be 5-inning pitchers.
Right. Like they're doing now in MLB.
Yeah, like they're doing now. And I'm just like, if you want a half miler, you train them to run a half mile. But doesn't mean he couldn't run a mile.
Sure.
I mean, so.
The kids I still don't understand. I see them all the time when I pick my son up from school, the cross-country runners. I just don't get it. I respect the heck out of them, but I don't get it, Jerry.
Oh, I don't either. I went to state in cross country, believe it or not, in high school.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I hated every step. But
so why'd you do it?
Well, I was doing it to get in shape for basketball.
There you go.
Of course, at that time in high school, cross country was only 2 miles. Now I think it's 4, and I'm not sure. But anyway, I was good at it, but I didn't like it. Let's put it that way.
I don't know anybody that loves going out and just running for hours at a time. But
well, I always remember in the state meet to coach, and I don't know where I was playing. I was probably 100th, out of about 300. I don't know what it was. But anyway, I never will forget going up the hill, and it's cold,
Yeah.
and I was, cold, and my snot was freezing and everything else.
Yes.
And I heard Coach yelling, "You Reynolds, you can catch those so and so and so. You can catch those next 5 guys." I was thinking, "You catch them. I don't want to. I just want this.
Coach saw something in you.
I want this over with, and let's get to basketball practice." God almighty.
Well, it's funny because so many, when I went to high school, a lot of people played other sports so they could avoid the off-season conditioning, which I always thought was great because you learn, we've had this conversation before, but you learn different movements. And I think athletes these days, Jerry, are getting too specialized.
I agree with you there, and I think the specialization to some degree might lead to burnout. Where guys,
Great point.
young kids just get kind of tired of it and walk away. Where I know, of course, like I say, a lot of guys that could identify back in the day. If you're a good athlete at high school, you played 2 or 3 sports.
Yep.
I mean, that was just accepted. I mean, you wouldn't even think of a guy being a really good basketball player not running track, or maybe baseball too, or track or cross country. I mean, they do something besides one sport. So yeah, and I think it as a high school athlete, it gives you a chance, to learn other skills that might, and you really don't know at a young age exactly what your best sport is for sure.
Right.
I always think of the great Tim Duncan. He was a great swimmer early on. That was what he thought he was going to be. And then, later in high school, he grew, and it's like, this basketball thing might be all right.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. There's some NFL guys. The NFL has an international program right now, and there's a couple of them that were in training camps. So I'm not sure if they made rosters. They've only been playing football 2, 3, 4 years, not even collegiately.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Chiefs had a rugby guy in, and I think he didn't make it, but I could see why, they
Makes sense.
give him a shot. Used to be there were several really good NFL players that never played college football but played college basketball. Antonio Gates was one.
Antonio Gates.
Pete Gent was the first one I remember from Michigan State. He was a good forward, and he became a receiver. And I think that's one of the strengths, I think, of basketball. I mean, the guys that played college football aren't likely to play pro basketball.
Right. Yeah. Different skill set.
Yeah. Where a college or a college basketball player, I mean, if LeBron had decided, if he was in college, or Jordan, if they'd wanted to play football, I don't think there's any doubt they could have found a position where wide receiver, or in LeBron's case, about any spot.
Yeah, LeBron could play pretty much any spot on the field, as you said. So on the Kings roster, if we said we had to pick, let's say 3 players that we think could cross over to the NFL, I'll kick it off. I'm going to say De'Aaron Fox. I think he could be a cornerback, Jerry.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think he's got the quickness and the length and everything. Yeah, he could be a cornerback, safety. I mean, I think he certainly could cover the ground that you have to, and certainly, yeah, I definitely think he would, with the proper training, if he'd wanted to be that, he certainly could have had a chance.
All right, your turn. Who do you
Well,
think?
I'd say Domas. I think, probably tight end.
I was going to say long snapper.
Or maybe even an edge rusher. I mean,
good point.
Because I mean, there again, you talk about stamina and just simply brings it every play, every night. I would think he would find a way to be awfully good.
Yep, spot on.
A Max Crosby type or something,
Spot on, just be a monster. Maybe
he's almost, big enough. He wouldn't have to put on weight per se. I mean, he might be, but anyway, I would think he would. He could find a way.
I'm with you. Maybe Keegan, you think, maybe as a tight end, or DeMar as a wide receiver?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't be as enthused about either one of those guys.
Okay. I think we have two good ones. Well,
Yeah,
Malik,
we
we
got
haven't.
two good ones. Yeah, and I think Monk could find a spot.
There you go. Bingo.
I think Monk could. I mean, he could be, slot receiver or something like that. Maybe. I don't know. But I mean, his athleticism and he's got a lot of toughness about him. Don't know of any King that you'd want to think in terms of being a running back. I don't know.
No. Davion Mitchell, if he was still here.
Yeah, Davion would have been the guy. You're right. Davion would have been a running. You'd say, well, yeah, he'd be a running back.
It seems like he could have done what Mason did last night for the 49ers.
Yeah, well, I don't know, boy. I'll tell you what, they found another good one, and of course, I have to say, I think you and I could have gained some.
I was going to say, I think you could have scored a touchdown.
There was some massive holes there, wasn't there?
Oh, my God.
But the kid runs, I mean, he's a great pickup because, I mean, obviously give McCaffrey some breaks and I mean, just as a power back, I mean, I would imagine they'll figure out a way to get him 6 or 8 carries a game some way or another.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you got to find a way. And the fact that he did that against the Jets D-line, who is pretty darn good. He's running through guys. Very impressive. So, Jerry, always a fun show on Thursdays. Thank you or Tuesdays. What am I saying here?
You're getting old too. No, it's Tuesdays, right?
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it. Thank you for resetting me. The Wisco is still fogged my head up.
Yeah, you got a long week ahead, buddy. It ain't here over. It's just Tuesday. So.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. As always, can't wait to talk to you next week, buddy.
Me too, buddy. Can't wait. Right. I'll start preparing.
Yes.
An hour or so. I'll have to take an hour off.
Jerry, we had a bye week last week, so take an extra day this week.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll probably need
perfect.
Okay. We'll see you next week.
All right. Sounds good. The one and only Jerry Reynolds. Tremendous conversation with Jerry. I thought it was really, really good stuff. Let me know what you thought in the chat. Appreciate all you guys participating in the chat. If you're new to the King's Court, remember, Jerry joins us every Tuesday. So make sure you tune in here. And don't forget, a lot of you saying King season right here around the corner. That is indeed true. We are through the hump. Training camp almost here. Media day, preseason, and we are back. We are back, baby. October 24th against the Timberwolves, and we'll have all your pregame, halftime, postgame coverage right here as always. As you know, we're the place right here on If You Don't Like That. Jerry and tonight's show brought to you by Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Make sure you check out all of their locations. I told you about their brunch. Don't forget about their other specials.
Serving the freshest handcrafted foods in a warm, convivial setting. Enjoy our weekend bubbles and brunch, an inflation-busting happy hour with handcrafted cocktails offered 7 days a week. Join us Mondays for a wine and dine deal, 2 entrees, 2 salads, and a bottle of wine. We offer a wine list with 60 selections by the glass, and they go great with our handcrafted desserts. As for craving, every day we feature our prime seafood and house-cut steaks. Come enjoy our hospitality. bennettsrestaurants.com. Eat well, stay well.
Appreciate it, Bane. It was a fun conversation. We had a really good time, and there was some interesting things that I caught in there. I'm interested to see what you all caught. Some stuff about work ethic, about Peja. I thought that was very interesting. We saw some questions about Jay Crowder. We hit that at the top. You can go back and listen to that. As for the Kings roster, and we'll wrap up here, I'll say it this way. The Kings, through the Monty McNair era, one thing that his front offices have been, they've been fluid. And when I say fluid, they have not put all of their chips in one spot. So you look at where we sit now. DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk is a pretty decent haul for an offseason. Hell, we were just wanting Malik Monk to return, right? And you get that before free agency technically even starts, or at least the agreement. But we don't have a Zach LaVine contract, right? We don't have a Brandon Ingram contract. And I get that one's different 'cause it's only a year. But what I'm saying is the players you're talking about, we might be thin here, we might be thin there. The Kings have the ability to still make moves. And I know that the trade deadline is the most likely time that you're going to see the deck reshuffled. But, you know, we talked about Jay Crowder at the beginning of the chat with Jerry. And I thought he brought up a great point that if you're going to bring in a Jay Crowder, you got to have some minutes for him. Did not necessarily work out in Milwaukee. Partially, was that the issue? Who knows? Jerry hinted at that. But this is the time to be looking at guys. You don't know if an Orlando Robinson or somebody else surprises you. That's why you have a training camp. That's why you have an extended roster for training camp. And that's why you have the G League. That's why you develop guys down there. And last year, the Kings did an excellent job of developing talent. In fact, the last 2 years, they've done an excellent job of developing talent. Hey, we have a ton, and I mean a ton of content coming your way here on If You Don't Like That. For instance, tomorrow we've got a triple header, so make sure that you are subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that QR code. That'll get you all locked in. And by the way, all of the audio from If You Don't Like That, if you're at the gym and you can't watch and listen at the same time, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, go to grantnapier.com, if you don't like that.com. Download the audio there. Also, you can find the audio for the King's Court. Also, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you may find your podcast, you will likely find us there as well. Appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Tuesdays are special. Jerry is truly one of a kind. Blessed to have him on this show on a weekly basis. And as we get going, football season, we're here. So that means basketball. We just laid out the timeline right around the corner. And this is the place. This is the place to be for your Kings content. We are going to be all over it this year. And again, triple header tomorrow, starting with the Kings Court, 2 p.m., right here on If You Don't Like That. Then you got an open forum show with Grant at 5 o'clock. And then Grant and I, we're going to wrap up the night for you. Grant and Ryan at 8 p.m. Looking forward to it. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. No, not Thursday. Tuesday. Baki, I got something for you.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Night court is dismissed.